Hey, welcome back to the podcast. Today we're going to be talking about fear. It is a human emotion that every single one of us have, but unfortunately, fear is one of the number one things that causes people not to take action on their dreams and on their goals. And people will sit on thinking on certain ideas for so long because of one little thing called fear that holds them back and keeps them stuck. So I want to talk a little bit about that today. I feel like I have a good amount of experience just as an entrepreneur in general. It is just fear is an emotion that you have pretty often. And as an entrepreneur, you have to push past that feeling because it comes and it comes often. And it's a choice whether you want to stay there in fear or if you want to push past the fear, take a chance, take a risk, and see what happens. And the more often you get used to taking a risk and taking a chance and pushing past that fear, you do get used to it and it is easier to push past fear. Now, with that being said, that emotion never really goes away. You just get better and better at learning how to deal with it and push past it. So, many of us have had so many obstacles, like so many hurdles and things that have pushed us back in our life, just like I have. And we can either take those things and use them as excuses and say, oh, well, this happened to me. I just can't do this, or I don't know how to do this. A lot of times we tell ourselves we don't know how to do something. And really, it's just an excuse because we have this thing called social media. We all have phones, and we can literally learn anything that we want to just on our phones. We have YouTube, we have Google, we have Instagram, we have TikTok. We can learn anything that we want to learn. It's just a choice. And a lot of times we tell ourselves that we don't know how to do something as a reason to simply not do it. So that can either come from a place of fear or it can come from a place of just flat out laziness and not wanting to and not willing to put in that hard work. And I've been there and I still do it. There's things that I know I need to do and I'll just be like, oh, it's going to take me so much time to do it. I don't have enough time, or I don't really know how to do this thing. And I'll tell myself that for weeks. And so often I will sit down and take the time to do that one thing that I've been putting off for weeks that I didn't know how to do or I was scared to do because I never done it before. And then I take the time to do it and I'm like, oh, okay. It didn't actually take me as long as I thought. Like, oh, it's actually not as scary as I thought. Sometimes we work up things in our mind to be so much scarier than they actually are if we would just take action and just do the things that we want to do, that we think about doing, and just act on them. It is amazing what can happen. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. And so many times I've done that. And I look back and I'm like, oh, well, I could have been so much further ahead if I would have just done it a little sooner. Or if I would have just tried this thing earlier, then I would have known that it's actually not that hard or it's actually not that scary. And I feel like I started taking risks when I was really young and just trying new things. It started with just trying new ways of doing things. And then I slowly started to build this little tiny baby muscle like, oh, I tried something new and it actually worked and it was successful. Let me do something a little bit bigger next time. And it was just kind of this thing that I slowly built upon. And then I slowly kept taking more and more risk, more and more and bigger risks, and not like risky, but like calculated risks. But the biggest thing I'm trying to say is that you can't stay comfortable for your whole life and expect things to change. you can't stay comfortable your whole life and expect things to just happen for you, because nobody's going to put in the work for you. Nobody's going to make anything in your life happen. Nobody's going to help you achieve any of your goals or dreams. It is solely on you to roll that ball, to get it going, to keep the momentum going, because it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of perseverance. And the longer you sit on things, then things can slip away from you. There are times in our life where opportunities are only for right then and there, for that moment. And sometimes you miss that moment. Sometimes you miss that. And for me, I'm super fearful of missing an opportunity. So I always want to give it my all. I always want to try new things, even if it's scary, even if I'm not good at it. I've really learned to get over that. And I want to challenge and encourage you listening. If you have a fear of going live on social media, if you have a fear of showing your face, if you have a fear of just posting, if whatever it may be, I want to challenge you to get over it, because reality is nobody is really sitting there focusing on you and really calculating all your flaws and, oh, did you see her do this? There may be a handful, and honestly, they really have nothing better to do with their time. They just don't. And anyone who's going to make fun of you or pick at you really they're not on your level anyways. They're not trying to get where you're going. So their opinion really shouldn't matter anyways. And I know that's really hard as humans, because we all want to be accepted. We all want people to like us. So that can be very, very hard for people. I'm one of those. I don't like people to dislike me. I don't like to get on people's bad side. But I know not everyone does like me. I know that that's just not everyone's going to, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. I really am, because I am learning and doing the best that I can, and that's all you can do. And you have to try new things. You have to put yourself out there. You have to be brave and bold, and you just have to try things. And the good news is if you just start today, tomorrow you can get better. And then the next day you can get even better. And you just get better and better every time you do it. And that is just like what everybody does. That is just how it works. There is nobody that started off doing the perfect podcast. There's nobody who's started off doing the perfect reel. There's nobody who's started off making the perfect YouTube video. If you talk to anybody, they all have created a lot of content. They have all done a certain thing a lot of times before it started sounding really good, before it started looking really good. And that's what we have to do. You have to just start. And I'm such a passionate person about these type of topics. And I'm really a passionate person when we start talking about people's goals and their dreams and visions for their life and for their families, because I guess because I personally have seen a lot of transformation in my life. And I think even 7 or so years ago, I never, ever thought that I would be doing what I'm doing today. I didn't think I would be staying at home with my little girl and running a business from home and doing all the things that I wanted to do, but never thought I could do. Doing things that other people didn't think I could do, because they're like, oh, that's really hard. That's only for certain people, or only people with a lot of followers can do this. I had people tell me, I've had a lot of people tell me over the years, certain business ventures and things I've invested in and done, like, oh, do you really think that's going to work? Do you really? And in those moments, in those times, I felt very down and discouraged. Like, oh my gosh, are they really right? Like, I don't know, like, this is going to be super embarrassing if this flops and if this fails. Just for example, so my husband and I have an Airbnb, and we've had it for, I don't know, I think 2.5 years now. And it's been super fun. It's been such a blessing for our family. We've loved it. And we've loved just meeting our guests and things like that. But I live in a small town, very small town. And I kind of thought it was a crazy idea myself, but I do research things before I jump into things. And so I started researching our area and I was like, is there other Airbnbs in our area? And are they staying busy? Would this be worth it? Let's check it out. And so I was doing some research, and sure enough, there was a couple in my area and they were getting booked pretty decently. I was reading the reviews and I was like, okay, they're staying booked. So I'm like, I'm going to give it a go. And I'm just going to make a listing on Airbnb and see what happens. And I had people tell me that it was not a good idea, that I shouldn't do it, that just straight up that I shouldn't do it. And it was not a good idea. And who do you think is going to stay there? It's a small town, this and that. And the first day I listed it, somebody booked that night, like the exact day that I listed it on Airbnb. That same night, somebody booked it, and that was confirmation to me. And I felt like that was a God thing, saying, like, I gave you this urge and you followed through and you did it. And here's the fruits of your labor. So just being obedient and listening to that gut instinct of doing something, even when everyone else thinks it's crazy or it's not going to work. You have to be your biggest cheerleader and you have to believe in yourself. And what I like to say and what fuels me, not everybody, but it kind of does actually fuel me and put a little fire under me when people are like, oh, it's not going to work. Then I'm like, oh, I'm definitely going to make it work now, because if you're like, it's not going to work, I'm like really going to show you that it's really going to work. That's just the type of personality that I have and just kind of what fuels me. So you kind of have to let that be your fuel when people start saying like, oh, so then you really have to be like, okay, I've got to get really good at this thing. I've got to make this thing happen, because I want to show people that, yeah, this is going to work. And yeah, I am going to do what I say I'm going to do, and I'm going to make it work. But yeah, so anyways, we did the Airbnb, and it's booked just about every weekend since we've had it listed, and it has been so amazing. And yeah, if I would have listened to people saying, oh, it's not going to work in your area, don't do it, I would have missed out on a lot. So with that being said, there is so much reward on the other side of doing things. And I have experienced this so many times where I have been fearful of something and then I did it, and then I saw the reward of it pay off after. And the feeling you get from that is what builds that muscle for you to be able to keep doing things, keep taking those risks, and keep putting yourself out there to do something bigger, to do something more, to do something better, to achieve your goals, to achieve your dreams. And the more often you do it and you start seeing momentum and you start saying, I'm going to do it anyway, even though I'm scared to death, even though I feel like I can't breathe or move, I'm going to do it anyways. And when you do it and you put your whole self into it, give it your all, and then you see the reward after doing that, oh man, that gives you everything you need to do it all over again and take the next step and do something bigger and better the next time. I'll tell you, when my husband and I were building our first house, so we were married for, let's see, maybe, I guess 2 years, and we lived in an apartment for our first couple years. And we started talking about like, hey, what are we going to do? Like, I mean, I guess our next step is to buy a house, build a house. And so we started looking at buying houses, and we didn't see anything we liked. And I started thinking like, let's build a house. Like we pretty much, we'll probably be in the same area for most of our life, all of our life, probably. We don't really see ourselves moving anywhere, but of course, things can change. But we were like, I want to build a house, and we want to build it the way we want it and have it set up the way we want to. And that was so scary. It was super scary. Obviously, we've never built a house before, and So I started researching everything. My dad builds houses for a living. So he was obviously a huge help because I was able to go to him and be like, okay, what permits do I need? What paperwork? How does this work? And he's basically just like, hey, you got to do this. You got to get this next. So that was super helpful. And we ended up paying my dad to build it. If I think people think that they're like, oh, your dad built your house. That's nice. He probably gave you a big discount. Of course, he helped us and worked extra overtime, like some weekends and stuff. But no, we paid him just like he would have gotten paid from anybody else because that's what he does for a living. And yeah, so that's that. And I've never been one for taking anything as far as like for free. I don't expect things for free from anybody, including my parents. So yeah, we paid him. But what I was going to say was it was so scary. I remember we were getting ready to finish building our house and we were getting ready to close on it and move into our house. And I could not sleep at night because I was just like, oh my gosh, this is like the biggest thing we've ever done. Like, this is a lot of money. Oh my gosh, we have a mortgage now. We have a house. Like, what's this going to be like? And I did my research before. But when building a house, there's only so much research you can do. And the rest is like, you just kind of figure out as you go. And I tell people that ask me about building our house, they're like, what was it like? And I tell them what I can, but I said, there's still as much research as I do before getting into anything. There was so much as we were building our house that I was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know this, or like, oh my gosh, what this is next. And, but then we got through that and I was like, okay, we did it. Wow. Okay. We did it. We built our house. We are able to pay for everything. This is great. And then I'm like, okay, so that was like another muscle build. It was like, okay, we did that. Wow. Okay. Now what's next? And then we did just the next thing. I'm also sitting here and recalling the first time that I ever went live it was on Facebook. My first lives were on Facebook. And I started doing them. Let's see, when did I start doing them? I've been in the hair industry licensed for maybe a year, maybe 2 years, somewhere around there. I can't remember. But I started doing lives on Facebook and I don't even really know why or what gave me that urge. But I don't know. I guess I've always had this urge inside me to teach people, to help people. So I thought I would start going live on Facebook in the mornings as I was getting ready for work and just show people how I did my makeup and how I styled my hair for the day. And I would sit in front of the camera. It was horrible. I had horrible lighting. This is when we lived in a basement apartment. And it was so dark down there. I had like a little lamp by my makeup vanity thing. And I was just recording live on my phone, which was not good quality at the time. I think it was an iPhone. It was like one of the first iPhones. So it was like not as good quality as it is now. And I would sit there for, I'm not even joking, a good 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes in front of the camera before I would hit the record button, trying to talk to myself, to tell myself to push the record button. I would sit there and panic. I had every nerve in my body screaming not to push the button. And like I would be taking deep breaths and I'd be like, okay, now I'm going to push. No, one more minute. Let me just think about this. What am I going to say when I first started? What am I going to say? Okay, I think I can do this. I think I can do this. And I would hit record and I would be freaking out, but I would do it and I would be calm and you wouldn't be able to tell that I was freaking out because I was like just talking. And it was only the first 5 minutes that were like hard. And then after that, it was so easy because then I was just talking to my friends and I was just explaining what I was doing and talking about how I did this and how I was doing my makeup technique and what I was doing with my hair and the products I was using. And so after that first 5 minutes, it was so easy. And then the next day, I would get up and start getting ready for work and decide, okay, I'm gonna do another live today. And I would do the same thing again. I would sit in front of that camera for 10, 15 minutes to talk myself up and finally hit that record button. But it was just a muscle that I started building. And I started getting more and more comfortable. And before you know it, I was just sitting down and pressing record. I wasn't sitting there for 10, 15 minutes. I was like, okay, I got this. I've done it several times. I feel like I know, kind of starting to feel comfortable and know what I'm doing now. And then before I know it, I would be able to sit there and just hit start and just start talking. And it got easier and easier over time. And it really, in the beginning, helped me build my business. That was one of the huge components, because I feel like, especially in my area, I was one of the very first people to start doing video and really utilizing it and the power of video. And I got some pretty good success with it. Just taking that step and being brave and bold and not letting fear get in the way. So that's just like another thing that's coming to my mind as we're talking about fear. And then again, just a lot of you know my story about how I was a salon owner. I worked full-time behind the chair, and then I had my little girl and started my bridal business. And I have several other podcasts on that if you want to go back and listen to my story. If you are trying, wanting or trying to transition to full-time bridal or just something else, you can go back and listen to it and hear my story. But it was that's another time. It's so scary making a transition. Anytime change in general is just hard for people. It's scary. It's very fearful because we like to be comfortable. We like to do what we know. We like to just know what we're doing and stay there and not do anything beyond that. It's kind of against human nature to take risk and to do scary things and to feel fear and do it anyways. It goes against everything our body tells us. So it's not going to be comfortable. And honestly, for those of you that have used the excuse of, oh, I'm just so scared, like I don't know, some of you have used that excuse for far too long. And you need to just push past the fear and just start doing something to get you in the direction of where you want to go. But back to switching to bridal, that was another huge, scary transition. It was a new ball game for me in every aspect, because I hadn't been doing weddings it was either 2 to 3 years. I had completely stopped doing weddings. And so I had to relearn a lot of things. I know business. I knew what I needed to do in that aspect, but I had to brush up on my bridal hairstyling skills. Basically, just everything. I was like, I need to be the best. I need to be really good at it. Well, the best that I can be, at least. And I need to put myself out there and rebrand myself. And basically, it was just starting over in a sense. And nobody likes the feeling of starting over. It's a lot of uncertainty. It's a lot of things you don't know and relearning and rebuilding. And no one wants to feel like they're starting from the bottom again. Nobody wants to do that, really. But so it's those things and those times when you take those risks, when you know it deep in your gut and you feel like that is the thing that you need to be doing, when you listen to that and you do it anyways, even though you're scared, that is when you reap the most reward and the most success. And I have seen that time and time again in my life with everything that I've ever done. And again, it's just a muscle that you build over time, and it gets easier and easier to do things even when you feel scared. And it's just an emotion. You just got to remember, it's an emotion that everybody has, and it's not an excuse of why you can't do anything, because everybody is scared. It's not just you. It's everybody. Everybody has fear. Everybody has that emotion, but it's just how you handle it. And are you going to push past that fear and see what's on the other side? Or are you going to stay where you are and stay stuck and keep continuing to tell yourself that one day, sometime, maybe when this happens? I don't know about you, but I don't want to look back and say, man, what if I would have just tried this? Or man, what if I would have just done this one thing? I wonder if. I don't want to wonder. I want to know, I want to give it my all. I want to do things scared because it's just fun, you know? It's fun to try new things. It's fun to be challenged. Life's too short to keep doing the same thing that you've always done, to not take a risk, to not see what's on the other side. All right, thanks guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you found it super motivational, and I hope it inspires you to take a leap of faith, to do that thing that you have been putting off. And I know there's a lot of really good things on the other side for you. So thank you guys for listening. I'll talk to you in the next one.